and I'm going to mount this on the lathe with the faceplate today. It's a really sturdy, easy way of doing it. And one really quick way of finding center on your faceplate, and I learnt this off Want Less Woodturning, another woodturner here on YouTube, awesome guy, is I get my drive dog here, and I use the center part of the drive dog. I put it through my faceplate like that, and then I line that up with the mark that I made with my template when making my circle. And these are 40mm long screws. First screw goes in a little way, next screw goes in all the way, and hammer that first one back home. Hope you're enjoying these videos too, guys. I really enjoy having you here in the shop. So when you're turning a big blank like this, if you're a little bit unsure, always to put your tailstock up and lock it all off. I'm going to just load it on here, spin it with the hand wheel, and then lock it off at the end there. I've got a bit of bark there that might come flying off. Add a bit of excitement into our day. Bring over the banjo and then turn the lathe on. Now, obviously before I start, I just want to explain that this is a wet piece of timber as well. I tried filming this video yesterday and it was with a dry bit of timber and there was just dust, and it was really uncomfortable in here, and I had to turn on the dust. It was just too loud. So I'm just filming this again, and I'm probably going to forget everything that I wanted to tell you about anyway, but just setting this up so I can drop those calipers in between the chuck jaws. Rightio, so we're looking good there. Everything's spinning out freely there. It's not going to hit anything. And if you don't have a bandsaw, no problem. I've made a video, and I mean that genuinely. We didn't have a bandsaw for a really long time, but my father-in-law made up the no bandsaw, no problem. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's such a simple way of how to cut your blanks with the bandsaw, and sometimes without a bandsaw. And sometimes I even go outside and use it still. It's just nice being out in the sunshine with the fresh air, and it's just a really simple, easy way of doing things. So we're just going to have that control box by our hip there, and we're just going to turn the lathe on. The reason why I said that is so you can turn it off with your hip if you need to, if things get a little bit pear-shaped. First thing I'm going to do is just remove this bark and then just get it running true. I've got, let's swap that. I'm going to use the 19mm woodcut bowl gouge with a 55-degree bevel on there. I think we're looking pretty good. Let's get into it. I'm just going to hold the gouge with my thumb over the back of the tool, handle riding low, and I'm just going to push into it, and I'm going to shoot those shavings over to the wall there. Make sure my drink's not over there, otherwise it'll be annoying. Just going to bring up the speed here. If you're worried about any vibration, just put your hand on the bed of the lathe and see if it's rocking there. And we're just going to remove that corner. So it feels a bit blunt, that. Very blunt. Take any flat spots out. And when I'm doing that, I'm just holding that gouge on my hip. It doesn't move, and I'm just pushing along the tool rest. So I'm going to have it in there. I'm just going to push it along that tool rest. Now when I make this cut, I'm going to keep my eye up the top. Just make sure I'm not going to push too deep. Sweet. Now whilst we're here, I'm just going to come in and clean up that top. When you do this cut, be careful not to overreach over your tool rest, because that edge can get caught in there and your gouge, I've learnt by experience, so believe me when I say this, that edge of your gouge will get into that timber and your gouge will go that way. So handle down low, flute faces away from me, and I'm just going to press in there just to get a flat edge. I've got my feet, my right foot back, left foot forward, and I'm just pushing in and then slide it back. It's just to get a reference point there so we know where we can measure to. Getting a blank canvas so we can do some wood turning. I'm just going to come down here and I'm pushing in. The whole time then, did you see where my head was? It was over here, just keeping my head out of the way. I'm just going to mark up this tenon on the back here. I've got the dividers. We've got the tool rest a bit low there. I'm holding that left side down the right side shadows. Now I'm too far to the right there, so I need to go to the right. I sort of split the difference, a little bit less. And now we're on right there. I'll mark that so you can see it. Cool. So that will be our tenon for when we put it in the shark jaws over there. When we're marking up for a foot on these, got to be careful of these cracks. That's pretty intense. When we're marking up for a foot, you can have the foot wider on your round bottom bowls. They can be a little bit wider than normal. So I'm just going to remove a bit of that down to that tenon, and then we'll mark up for the foot. I've still got that the 16 mil bowl gouge here, down low, and I'm just going to press in. That bark's there, remember that, so I'm going to face towards the bowl now. And now I'm going to leave that, and I'll finesse that tenon after I've moved all the rest of it, okay? After I remove the bulk of the material. And now with my foot, sometimes with these closed forms, it actually doesn't look bad if the foot is the same width as the overall height. So now we've got a height of 120 mil. It won't look bad if the overall foot's 120 mil as well. So now we're running into some issues here. We've got some pretty funky looking material down the bottom here. It's got some pretty severe looking cracks, and they go in 20 mil. So I'm going to remove that. That could end up being a little bit unsafe. So I'm just going to remove that material away. Camphor laurel is always sometimes full of surprises. It's beautiful stuff, but can get a bit tricky sometimes. Let's see how that's looking now. Removed a bit of that. Yeah, it's going to keep going. Oh no. Oh, what have we got there? I'm going to end up with no bowl here. Let's get rid of a bit more. And I'm not going to waste all super glue on that. If someone out there is thinking, oh, just fill it with super glue. Let's leave it at that. We're just going to have to leave that. I'm going to take that tenon down now. It looks massive. Sorry about that, guys. I thought this piece was an absolute beauty. Oh well, let's remeasure it now. 110 mil, so we'll go 55 each side. So where are we here? 55. Let's make it a bit bigger. So let's go. Oh, Kez. Oh, Kez. Oh, that was shocking. Oh. Anyway, right. Move this around to the side here. Our banjo. Rightio, so we're going to mark up the widest point of the bowl. So we need to pick now whether we're going to have the widest point down the bottom, or we're going to have the widest point coming up and then closing in up the top. So it's usually 1/3 from the bottom up or 1/3 from the top down is where the widest point will be. I'm going to go with the 1/3 from the bottom, and the reason why I like that, and it's around 40 mil, I think. So what's 100? 110 divided by 3. Oh goodness. 40. I'm just 40, 80, 90, 100, 110. Yeah, so 30, 35. Let's go 38. I'm probably wrong there. Wowzers. My math isn't the best. Make our line around there anyway. 40 mil? No, can't be 40 mil. It's less than 40. Anyway, it's there. So, oh, what am I talking about? I've got me a little Duvalak. If you don't know what this is, it's a golden ratio tool, and I made this up ages ago. Oh, look at that. I'm not far off that. Probably 5 more mil that way. Yeah, righto. So if I went to go the foot distance, that's just good there. So these are really handy, the golden ratio tools, the golden ratio calipers. I'll put a link in the description below. It just really speeds up your wood turning, but sometimes I like using the old cranium. So first thing is I'm going to remove this corner I know that I need to come out, and that point there will be our widest point. So I need to come out from here and remove it to there, to that point. But I want to keep the bottom reasonably flat with that foot looking a little bit elegant there. So I'm just going to take a little bit of material away here now, because we know where we want our foot to be of material, just back to the foot. And now I'm just going to start removing this corner around. Just do a little bit at a time, keeping your eye on that shape, because we can all take it off, but we can't put it back on. Well, someone's probably thinking, oh, I've got epoxy, but we don't want to use epoxy, right? We want to try and do this el natural. So all I'm doing there is a pull cut. I'm just doing a pull cut. It's really easy to do. And I'm just going to keep pulling around that corner until I reach our point. Just using the side wing. If you want to get adventurous and you want to do a push cut, I'll need to swap gouges. This is a 45-degree bevel on a woodcut bowl gouge. You have to have your hand right out far like so. So starting out wide, I'm just going to feel for those shavings, and I'm only wanting to take a little bit at a time. I come around, I said a little bit, Kez. Come around, and then it gets a bit tricky coming around this corner here like that. You really have to position your body, you need to position your feet over here, but start over here. So when you come around the corner, you're comfortable. So it's a little bit tricky is what I'm getting at. So I'm just gonna use that little part of the gouge here. Got my brother's pencil here. Use this part of the gouge, handle down low, and just trim it around there, that corner like that. Just bring it around nice and gently. And keep your eye up the top where you're going. So keep your eye on that form, and you won't have any dramas about removing too much. And that top camera will be showing that shape coming around there, and it will be looking really nice. And normally, obviously, I wouldn't be worrying about making it look so neat like this with a wet piece of timber, you know, and it's got all these little faults in here. But normally I would just turn it an inch thick and then let it go and then let it dry out. Let's come around here now, and now we're going to work our way back down to the bowl. And if you push this way, you'll run into some dramas where you'll hit the end grain up here and you'll get tear out. So I'm just going to gently, as you can see here, I'm just going to gently start pulling back towards that line. You can already start to see the shape of the closed form, and it's all how you want it to look. Just remember those rules of that 1/3. So 1/3 from the top down, or 1/3 from the bottom up is pretty much the golden rules of how to sort of help yourself out. That's looking really nice. And how to get a good gauge for how it's feeling is to stand on the back of the tails around the headstock here and feel with your hands. And now there's a bit of a dip. I can feel a dip. You can probably see it in the camera there. There's that little whoop-de-doo just there. I want to get rid of that. And how I'm going to do that is take that rim in a little bit more, so it just looks so pretty when it's sitting on the table. It'll be nice and curved up the top. Just back to the 16mm, and I'm just going to take that rim in a little bit more. Oh, that's looking good. Just to meet that hollow. And then we'll slowly come out of the timber a little bit. Nice. Come back towards me now. Right foot in front of left, using that side of your tool. Flute is facing towards the timber. Careful, you don't open the flute. Don't open the flute like that, because it will just catch and send your tool flying. That was blunt, wasn't it? Yeah. I need something a little bit sharper. I want to show you something. Raise the tool rest up a little bit more, and then have that tool's down by my thigh there, right down low. and I'm just gonna caress it now. There's two ways of doing this. This method here I learnt from Glenn Lucas, and it's sending little shavings off like this, little fluff, really nice. And now I'm gonna bring it back towards me. I'll try and catch something here. See that on my pinky there? Just really nice, delicate little shavings. And this is why I love wood turning. You're making something before your eyes, that instant that instant gratification of just creating something beautiful. That it's up here. You're creating that, and it's really hard to do that with anything else, you know. That shape there is looking really nice. My apologies about the timber, but that is a beautiful shape coming out of that bowl. I want to show you a little tool here, and it's the Phil Irons shear scraper. I bought this ages ago from Woodcut Tools in New Zealand there. And how you use it, you have to have the tool rest away a little bit from the piece. You have it angled, and there's 3 sides to it, and you can loosen that nut there and just spin it around when one gets a little bit fatigued, gets a little bit dull, takes the burr off. And you just hold it on the angle like that on the tool rest, and I sort of switch it around and change it up, and then you just present it onto the timber. It just helps you refine the shape. See that? That's like a powder coming off that nearly. It's like sanding it. So if you've probably seen scrapers around, and I'm not trying to upsell you anything here. It's just another way of doing things. Now that I've removed all that weight off the bowl, I then come back and then I tidy up the tenon, because in my mind I don't want anything undistributed on the bowl, any extra weight hanging on or timber somewhere, and then I do the tenon and then fix up everything else and remove all the material. Come on the back here. That's our mark there. They live up there. I always go to put it back there, every time. Skew, I'm just going to hold it under my arm like so. That's probably a little bit too much material there. Just going to get my little 1/4 inch bowl gouge here. Just take that down. So all I did then is I'm just decreasing the height, even though it's going in the chuck jaws, just decreasing the height a little bit. And now this is when I will run it in to create my dovetail. So I'm just going to hold it under my arm, finger over the top of the tool, the tip, the spiky bit, the pointy bit of the skew. I don't know the anatomy of a skew. I'm going to line that up with the line that I made, and then I'm going to push that down into that flat point in there that I made earlier. And there we go. How are we all looking here? I'm going to leave that foot the way it is. Actually, let's just tidy it up right now. It's one less job we have to do later. Fingers over the top of the flute, pinky behind the tool there. I'm just going to come in and then roll in, open the tool, and then come in like that. I sharpen this really funky. Same tool, so I'll show you that cut again. I have the flute facing away from me, pinky over behind the back. Just going to take it in there, open the flute up, swing into the timber a bit, come back, and then drive it home so it's flat. I'm going to leave that because that looks pretty good. Now if that's hard, get the old, put it down there, arm over the top like you're holding the pill in a game of rugby, hit it in reverse, stop, drill. Just give that a little snap at the end, just to bind that metal on there really nicely. Shark jaws, make sure they're nice and clean. Bring up our stock, our material, and I'm going to have the grain facing vertically. Hold my hand on the front, and there's no reason why you can't bring up your tail stock there to help you, assist you to push that in. And that's in there really nicely. Now this becomes the fun part of the operation, turning the closed form bowl. Now, what you want to do is first get your tool rest ready to rock and roll. Back to the 16mm bowl gouge here. And I'm gonna flatten off that face first, pushing in towards the headstock. And like I said, the more you close that in, it'll be harder to finish, because you want to get up in underneath there when you're turning, and you need to have the tool out here to get in there, which I'll show you in a second. So now we got that face looking clean. I'm now going to start cleaning out the center. So start with the tool facing in, and then open it up. The camera there catching everything out. Need to have the tool handle out wide. Right, so I'm going to bring my right hip over to the bed of the lathe so I can reach out far to get my gouge in there. And I'm going to make some steps. Oop. Okay. Now you might see when there's like an ice cream cone looking thing coming out. Some people do the ice cream cone where they keep all that weight in the middle out into a cone. I've done that before when I first started, and I find that when I'm coming in that the wing on the underside, so I find that part catches into that cone and gets a catch. So I don't do that cone thing. I just make steps down into the center like that. So I'll come back here and I'll just clean that up. But I'll be mindful not to clean all the weight out in there. See, when I was coming into there, I could catch on that bit there, that little cone thing there. You know what I mean? I'm going to swap that. It's getting blunt. Same bevel angle, 55 degrees. Now I can get the tool rest in there. Right, to my 12mm gouge, I'm just going to form up the rim there. So I like a wider rim on bowls, and I'm going to make it my thumb width there. And you can already see by the way I'm holding that tool like that, my hand just feels so comfortable around there. So clean up this rim before we remove all that weight out. Drive it in and then roll around. I came in and then I drive in like that. Back to the 55 degree tool. Closed forms can be real challenging if you really roll that rim over, like I said earlier. And because that rim comes around, it tends to hold the shavings up underneath the rim. So just keep that in mind. Don't put your hand in there to clean them out. Just going to switch gouges now to the 45 degree bevel, and I'm going to make a really clean cut coming underneath that rim there to get in around under there to make that undercut rim. I've got that tool right out to the far right there. And just go where you can. Don't keep pushing it into the timber because it won't go all the way. I think there's a little bit of shavings on the lens. Righto. So it's starting to look really neat and under that rim. I'm going to do another cut there. What I'm doing here is I'm lining the back of the tool, the bevel. I'm lining that up. The pencil is the bevel angle, and I'm lining that up with the bowl on the inside. So when I drive in, it rides on that bevel, and then I slowly open the flute. So I come in, the camera see, yep. I come in, I'll drop my shoulder so you can see there. And then I ride that bevel, I can see a little bit of shavings coming off, and then I push it in. show you again. I come in there, now I'm gonna have to reach right out. And during that cut just then, because I was trying to drop my shoulder so that camera here can see, I'm looking over this side. So I'm looking on that right side. And it's not going to be, so we've got about 10 mil underneath that rim, and now I'm gonna taper it down. I'm just gonna start bringing it all the way down. And what I'll do after this, I'll cover it in PVA wood glue and sit it on the windowsill and just let it dry. Let it dry like that. I'll show you the bottom bowl gouge as well. I'll just remove a bit of this. Hear that really rough cut just then? What that was that side wing hitting that other step that I made earlier. So I'm gonna pick that little one up there and I'm just gonna step it down. Now I'm gonna come in here, and because I can't ride the bevel under there, I'm going to show you the bottom bowl gouge, and I'll also show you a scraper to use to getting that. So where the 45 will come down and then where the 55 will start, or the bottom bowl gouge will start, there will be a little tiny step from where one stops and the other one starts. So I've got a little thing to show you how to clean that up. So it's just really easy flowing, and you spend less time sanding. Let's check out the depth there. Oh, we still got plenty to go. What have we got there? Let's get rid of some of that. We'll keep going with the 55-degree bevel there and remove some of that material. So, sorry, I didn't explain what I was doing there. When you need to bring that gouge in there and you need to flow around that curve, obviously the back of the tool is going to hit that rim, like I said earlier. So one way of getting around it is ride the bevel, have the handle running low so it goes up the bowl, and then bring it down back towards center. I learnt this off Glenn Lucas, and it's a really handy way of getting around a tight curve like this. Drop the handle. I'm gonna hold on tight because I'm gonna probably get a catch there. No, I'm right. I'm getting a bit greedy, so I'm gonna take half. Ride that bevel, come back again, clear those shavings out. I hope that's making sense. It's just such an awesome technique to use to get out of a jam. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to ride that bevel, I'm going to keep my handle really low, make the step. Can you see that shape, the way it cuts up underneath there and forms around? I need a shorter handle tool here. Let's go to 45. So start up, drop the handle, come around, up the bowl, and then in. And now take some of this weight out. Reason why I swap gouges just then is because that's not my normal one that I use for removing material. Check our depth, clean those shavings. You can see how the shavings get caught up in there. See how we're going there? Oh, that's starting to really come nice. So we've got about 20 mil down the bottom there. We'll just get it down a little bit more. I don't want to waste this bowl, so I'm going to leave it around 10 mil thick, all the way around. So then it gives me a little bit of wriggle room if I need to trim anything out later on. Normally I wouldn't do that, I'd just finish it, but because it is green and I'm going to spend some time later and fill these holes, I don't want to just waste this beautiful material. So I'm going to come in here, just remove a bit more of that bolt. Last tool that I'll show you, and this will create that. Remember I was talking about that where it started and where it finishes, that little step. I've got a bottom bowl gouge here, sharpened to 60 degrees with the heel removed on the back. And now I'm going to use that to clean up the bottom, and then I'll come back and just tidy up that little junction point in the corner in here. So where people come unstuck when they're using this is they keep a really long bevel on the back of the gouge, and mine is the actual cutting edge, the bevel on mine is 4 mil long. The shorter the bevel, the less likely you're going to get a catch. So remove that heel on the back of the gouge. And how you start is I start with the handle low, and then I just wait till I start seeing those tiny little shavings. See that there? And then I start the cut. I don't just start it horizontal and dig in, because I know this by experience. And I've broken the tool off, and the handle went that way and the tool went into the bowl. So just handle down and then slowly bring it on. I'll show you again. So handle, you run your handle down and then slowly bring it up. And then when you get to the center, just slow the cut right down. And that'll make a really nice finish on the bottom there, instead of just rushing and ripping the guts out of it. I'll do one more cut and I'll just slow it down. That was a really aggressive bottom bowl gouge attempt on my behalf. So up high and then slowly run it down. Just take your time with it. And now I'm going to show you my French curve scraper. It's a homemade job. It was a round nose, but this here will clean that little groove up in there. It'll tidy it right up. I'm just going to move the tool rest around until I'm nearly right on that side there. Just bring it back a bit. Not a bit too close. Start the lathe up. Same thing again. I'm going to hold it under there to give it extra support, and I'm not going to scrape the hell out of everything, because I've done all that hard work now with my bowl gouge, and I want to leave that and maintain that, because that's pretty. It's finished. Don't go back and hit it with the scraper, because you can, even though it's tempting. And now I'm going to hold it over the top of my hand like so, and I'm just going to really lightly press it. Those little shudders you can hear is because of those cracks. Just going to pick that little point up there. See how that looks? And you can see, because it is wet still, but the dust isn't flowing everywhere. That there is a closed form bowl. Bowl is curving up and around like that. The widest point of the bowl is 1/3 from the bottom up, and then I've curved it in, rolled that rim around, undercut it as well with that 45-degree bevel, because we can get in there. It makes a really nice, because the bevel's so short, makes that really nice clean cut down to the bottom. And then we've picked that up with the 55, cleaned it across the base, and then use the bottom bowl gouge to get a really nice clean finish across the base, and then tidied the corner up, the junction point between the 45, 55 and the bottom bowl gouge with the French curved homemade job scraper in that corner there to just really tidy it up. So I really hope that I've given you the confidence to go out to the shop and try turning a closed form bowl yourself. And they are such a beautiful shape to make. You can just get creative with those shapes, and however it feels and looks right to you is perfect. So go give it a go. And for those out there that don't know how to remove your tenon off your bowls, check out this video here. Really simply, easy, and it's very straightforward. So go check that video out there. But other than that, I will talk to you all and see you directly. Cheers guys, thanks very much for watching.